Somebody who's got a pretty impressive book of rides coming up this afternoon at Trentham is Matt Cameron. And Matt, we join you there at Trentham, and I understand it's pretty warm conditions.
Hello Emily, yes, it's sitting here, it's actually quite warm with the sun on your back. I think driving in on the car was 24 degrees, so it looks like it's going to get a little bit warmer, I think, so it makes for good days racing, I suppose.
It sure does. If we get straight into the Group 1, you've got a really plum ride in Jon Snow. You know this horse inside out, and I'm sure you've been down to ride him a couple of times. You were on him in that trial. How have you felt he's come back from Melbourne? Do you think that he's trained on okay?
Yeah, I think he is. He's a horse, you know, nothing seems to worry him. You know, Murray and Andrew know him quite well, and he's come back in super order. You know, he's obviously stallion prospect, so he's there. He's a nice boy. He's gentle, and he's looking super. His trial was enormous, and you know, I think he had the track to suit at the trials, and I think he's going to get that today. And if he can bring anywhere near close to that form from Australia, he's got to be a top chance.
Speaking of his trial, he obviously was pretty impressive when he won that. Was that expected from the team? Did Andrew give you a lead into how he maybe was going to trial?
Not really. You know, I know the horse just as well as most people, but the horse is honest. He jumps and puts himself in the race, and there's no reason why he wouldn't trial well. You know, they wouldn't have sent him around if they weren't that happy with him. But he's trialled super, and I tried to get him to go a little bit past the line, just a bit more of a blowout. But his ears pricked. Our Aberdeen's a fair horse too as well. So he's had plenty up his sleeve, and obviously short of his best. But I think when they come around and get a bit aggressive, and I think he's really going to turn it up.
No doubt you would have watched his races in the spring in Melbourne. Of course, he was so impressive in the Makybe Diva and then into the Turnbull. What did you make of those runs? They were pretty good, weren't they?
They were pretty good. You know, you just look at the form around a lot of the horses. He didn't get the rub of the green. He's a horse who does need probably a little bit of clearer and to really get stuck into it. And it's hard to go over there, especially at that time of the year with those horses. You know, you've got the likes of Humidor behind him, all these horses that are just absolutely super horses. And you know, this race in particular, he looks home, but he's a horse who does grind a fair bit. So I think against these horses today, I think he can outgrind them for sure, and he's honest as they come. So that's all you need, really.
You spoke about the track conditions just earlier. Obviously, we've got a slow 8 there at Trentham at the moment. With the 24 degrees around, that may come back. What would be the ideal conditions for you? Are you concerned that the track may get better, or you think he'll handle the slow 8 just fine, or what are you thinking with regards to the track?
Yeah, I think the key is, you know, I think the amount of rain they've had here, it was a heavy 10 a couple of days ago, and it's come back to a slow 8. I don't think the track's going to improve a hell of a lot. It might improve to a slow 7, but the fact that the rain around is probably going to get a little bit puggy, a little bit rough. And I think it's not going to get faster. You know, I think people got to realise it's probably not going to get faster, and they're not going to run better times. It's the fact that it may be drying out slightly, but it's still going to rough up, and it's still going to be reasonably rough with the amount of rain that they've had over the last few days anyway.
And does that concern you with Jon Snow, or not really?
No, it doesn't at all. He's performed on dead tracks and even good tracks. He's performed probably not as good, but you know, the track's not going to get back to a dead 4, dead 5, probably not even a dead 6. I'm picking with the puddles around and the amount of rain they've had. I don't think it's going to have enough time to dry out, but I don't think that'll worry him whatsoever.
In the other stakes race on the programme, you do ride Aretha, that is in the 2-year-old event, the Wakefield Challenge Stakes. And Aretha sits in the market at 320 and 510. Matt, you've been on this horse in its trials. What have you made of its preparation? What is it like as a horse? Is it professional enough to handle a big day at Trentham at a first performance?
Yeah, I think she is. You know, her last trial was super. She's a speedy filly. She steps the gates well, and at the trials anyway, and she put herself right up there and travelled sweet the whole way. You know, it is quite daunting to come to Trentham. You get across that junction, that straight, it is quite daunting, and there's a lot of room in the track. But if you can get a horse to travel across that junction, get a bit underneath you and just wait slightly, because you get halfway down the straight and you've still got a long way to go, especially on little horses. And yeah, I think she's speedy enough and she's tough, and obviously from the Baker Forsman team, you know, she'll be tuned up, ready for this, and I don't think it'll be any worry, and I think she will get through the track. She handled Matamata quite nicely.
Will we expect to see her on speed, or would you be looking to settle her sort of in around the other horses today?
It just all depends on how we jump. You know, she can be fast at the trials, but there's no real mad rush at the trials. You know, you jump, you look after them as much as you can, but when it comes to race day, you know, the big environment, everything could be a little bit different. Some horses switch on, some horses switch off, and you've got to take the other horse into account as well. But the way she stepped out at the trials, I don't see why she won't jump and put herself in the first three at least.
In the second on the programme, you're going to be riding Lady Nadal, and you've ridden this horse at its past 2 outings. You meet a pretty small field today. Just talk me through that last start win on the good track over the 1400. Were you happy with that performance?
Yeah, I was. She's a mare who does want a bit of cut out of the ground, which is probably going to play into her hands today. It was a bit of a cat and mouse race at Waverley. She's gone down there as the best horse, and I got pushed off on the turn, didn't corner that well, and the second horse really kicked away. But I think the class of her and I think the better horse got over top, and I think the last 100 metres she really got going and got into her gears, and it was quite comfortable on a track she wasn't 100% comfortable on. But I think today she's going to get all favours from the nice draw and the small field, and hopefully we can get the same repeat job done.
You were at 1400 metres last time and you dropped back to the 1300. Does that concern you at all with her?
No, nothing at all. She steps the gates well. She puts herself in the race, and you know, even a 1200 metre race wouldn't be beyond her. But you know, Murray and Andrew will have her ready for this, freshened her up slightly as they're dropping back to 1300. But she's an honest little mare, and she'll be right there in the finish.
Let's move along to the fifth on the card, which does feature Lucetta, and 460 and 560 on the favourite in this one as well. And Matt, that was a really good maiden win last time over the staying distance of the 2100 metres. You step it up to 2-4. Does she appear to you like a horse who's going to relish that further trip?
Yeah, she is. She's a really relaxed mare. She doesn't overdo herself, and you know, it was a bit of an overdue win for her last start, and she finally got it, which was great to see. Really attacking the line. Stepping up in distance is not going to be a worry. She settles anywhere. She's got the nice draw just to go to sleep wherever she lands, and I think the track will play into her hands. She has got a bit of a low action, but I think she's tough. She's one of those mares that'll just keep grinding, and she's got the fitness on her side. And once again, it's the Baker Forsman tune-up that they'll get and the polish on, and I'm looking forward to riding her.
Matt, we've just touched on 4 of your rides today. You had to obviously have a couple of others. If you had to pick out your best ride of the day, your best chance of the day, what would it be?
I think I'll have to go with the 2-year-old. You know, it's a small little field. She jumps, she does everything right at the trial, so I don't see why she can't do that again. And I think she's a speedy filly who's tough at the line, and you know, going up against a couple of decent ones today, it'll really get her to attack the line. So I'm really looking forward to riding the 2-year-old.
Well, thanks so much for your time, Matt, and best of luck today in the Group 1 on Jon Snow.
Thank you, Ems.